Hey, I'm Dr. Josh Satterlee. We're going to talk today about the amazing uses of a foam roller. Now, the foam roller, I think, is a wonderful invention. It's an incredible piece of equipment to have in your gym. It's cheap, it's useful, it's got many jobs. And I want to talk about those jobs today because a lot of people are kind of throwing these out, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and I think they have a ton of help. So one way that we can use this is as an assistive device. And I work with a lot of old golfers. I always say my patients are mostly male, mostly pale, and mostly stale. They're old, crusty, white guys who play golf multiple times during the week. So I use these foam rollers in a lot of ways. Number one, anytime we're doing any single leg balance, I love having the ability to have them check themselves with the foam roller, all right? It offers a little bit of support, but as soon as they try and change their base, it gets real wobbly and it doesn't work. And that's what I want. I want to challenge them, right? So it works really good as a balance tool. Or you can have somebody put it next to them, lean on it, and work on getting their leg up and over an object, things like that. It offers that support better. It's a kind of a better gym look than having a cane or a mobility pole or something like that. And I think, when they fall, they kind of bounce a little bit. And another point is when they're actually on the floor, if they do fall over, people see them. And that's why I'd recommend getting a colored foam roller instead of black. A black foam roller on a black floor, just not that helpful. Another way I like to use them is as an assistive device. So if you take the example exercise, some people need some assistance to do like split squats. So they have their split here, they go down, and they're really pulling on this ring, right? But what I like to do is offer them the foam roller as a transition between that and standing. And the reason for that is the foam roller will only let you push down. You can't pull on it like you can pull on the ring, or it'll fall, obviously. So they can use that there, go down in their split squat, and press down, and get up. And I really like that aspect as an assistive or supportive device. The 3-foot one works best for that. The little 2-foot one's a little short for most people. So as an assistive device. Now, what about tissue prep? Now, for a lot of years, people said, I use a foam roller, it stretches me out. And the research is pretty clear, that's not what's really happening. It doesn't really stretch muscle. And that's where a lot of people started throwing away the foam roller, saying, it's garbage, you don't use it. You're missing the point here. What does this do? Well, if you think about how to stimulate our motor control system, you need to stimulate the sensors. What are the sensors? Well, some of the biggest sensors are mechanoreceptors. Those live in our joints. As we move our joints around, we get a lot of stimulation. I'm going to show you why it does that. Second thing, the GTOs, the Golgi tendon organs, they fire when muscles get tension in them. And this changes that tension relationship a lot, so you get a lot of stimulation of those Golgi tendon organs. Furthermore, we know that we have pressure sensors in our body as well. So we have our ruffinian corpuscles, Pacinian corpuscles, all these things that receive that information and send it as afferent information into our motor control system. Why is that important? Because for most of our patients and clients who are sitting behind a desk for 8, 9, 12 hours a day, going home and sitting more, they're not sending a whole lot of upward stimulation you would get if you were hiking around, brushing up against trees and brush, if you were wrestling around with preschool kids, things like that. That doesn't happen if you're working as an accountant behind a desk. None of your body gets stimulated, and therefore there's just not a lot of afferent information. Well, if that person's then going to go to the gym and they're going to work out, we want that motor control system to be basically woken up or be like lit up. And a good way to do that is through foam rolling. And so just prepping, it would be very similar if you just took your hand and rubbed every inch of your body. You get a lot of stimulation, but you wouldn't get the GTOs firing. You wouldn't get a lot of pressure sense and whatnot. Foam roller does a good job. So if we just have that person get down on the ground, put pressure, I'm on my glutes, I'm kind of shifting my weight, stretch that muscle out, put some pressure, and roll around. It just takes a few strokes or a few rolls to send that information about what does my glute feel like when it's on stretch, when it has pressure, when it has stimulation. And that's what we're doing right now in a good way. So that's one reason I love it for tissue prep. Recently, I took a course from Steve Capobianco, or Dr. Capo. He's an incredible clinician, absolutely incredible on what he thinks about. And he was showing the rock blade with the mohawk tip, and he said the brushing stimulation might work better than the hard stainless steel blade. Made me think, that the stimulation from the foam roller on our skin might be what a lot of older clients say is making them more loose. It might just be that afferent stimulation. Either way, people love it, just freaking do it, okay? So if we look at we've covered tissue prep, we've covered support or assistance. I like the foam roller as a cueing tool. Why do I like it as a cueing tool? So sometimes I'll walk around with the foam roller, and as I'm coaching people, you can tap them and give them some stimulation and say, you know, change your shin angle, get it from a squat to more of a hinge, right? And I find that it's about the perfect size. It doesn't have any sharp edges. It has a little bit of heft to it, but as soon as you stimulate somebody, it doesn't knock them over, but it provides a lot of input. And so using it as a cueing tool, as like your third hand, is really good. If you want to reach their head while you're, you know, tapping on their butt or on their ankle for length, there's a lot of good stuff. Along with that, one reason I really like it is because of the soft rounded edge that we see in foam rollers. Why do I like that? I was using a PVC pipe one time with a client, and I had it as an alignment tool on their back, and the edge was right up against their head. And I wasn't really paying attention, and I was holding the PVC pipe kind of like this, cueing their head to stay in position as I was working on their legs, okay? And what I didn't notice, I was jamming that edge into the back of their head, and at some point it hurt. They jerked up, and I ended up cutting them on the back of their head. And like all head wounds, it bled like crazy. No big deal. The person was fine after a few minutes, but it's not a good look to cause that little bit of cut on your patients or your clients in the gym. So now I use a foam roller as a cueing or a wood dowel rod because I don't want to have that kind of sharp edge of the PVC pipe head. So that's one thing I love about it. Another thing we can use this for, well, that we should get into is, you know, I wrote it in there as self-efficacy. And the reason I say that is, for some reason, people really connect with the foam roller. They find that it really helps them out, and it's like a routine they can get into every morning, get down on the ground, roll around, whatnot. And here again is where people throw out the baby with the bathwater. The foam roller gets them to, you know, hit different aspects of their soft tissues, and they're rolling around like this. They're in awkward positions. They go onto their elbows. Maybe they're rolling their quads. And if you think about it, this is fantastic as a prep method to get them into multiple developmental positions. They're in, you know, they're on all fours. They're in a plank. They're in a tripod. They're raising their butt. They're lowering their butt. And they're in awkward positions as they stimulate their body. And in doing so, again, I think there's a lot of what contributes to that amazing afferent input that's producing a lot of mobility changes. For older patients, a lot of them will tell me, oh man, I take it with me on trips now. I love it. It really helps me loosen up when I go on golf trips or tennis tournaments. And I don't know why that is. I don't have all the answers of why that is, but it works. But I do really like the idea of them getting down into positions where they're weight bearing through their shoulder and their elbow. They're putting their hands on the ground. Their feet are in different awkward positions. They're transferring weight and getting into some of those developmental or animal flow kind of positions in a not so awkward way, okay? Which leads me to this. Again, I work with some older patients. I love the idea of them getting on the ground, weight bearing through their arms, and then working on shifting weight, shifting stances, working on it, and then finally standing back up, because getting down on the ground, getting into awkward positions and getting back up, that's a lifesaver to them. That's a reduction of morbidity, right? So many of them, so many people over the age of 60 or 70 get on the ground and they're never getting up without assistance of another person or calling the fire department or something. And in this case, they're gonna do it. So another way we can use the foam roller is body alignment, especially when you're coaching people. So I'm gonna use my son as a volunteer here. Come on over here. And he struggles a little bit to do push-ups. So I'm gonna have you put your hands on the bench, get in push-up position, and here's what I wanna concentrate on. A lot of times he rounds out in his back here. So I'm gonna put this on his butt, on his shoulders, keep your head here. We wanna maintain this aligned, and now I want you to go down into a push-up. Now remember, pull your hands towards your chest. Good, does that feel different than normal?
Yeah.
Okay, try a couple. And I'm actually pushing down here to provide a little bit of stimulation. One more. And compared to what we were seeing before, good job, buddy. You can head back and work on the camera. What we were seeing before was a lot of rounding out, and so that stimulation from the foam roller gives them a lot of really big, firm pressure without any sharp edges. Another way you can use this for alignment, another very popular exercise, is if the person dorsiflexes their foot and then axially loads this foam roller or pushes down while lifting up, we keep that foam roller against their leg. I found that this is a really good cue to learn RDLs and then give them a target, a cone, this bench or something to reach out for and touch. Once again, keep it stuck to your leg, and I find that this is self-correcting for the stance leg and alignment. So it works really well for that as well. Last thing, the coffee shop effect or the placeholder. When you're running classes, putting out some foam rollers is a really good way to kind of tell people where you want them. You can set down a foam roller, you can set a towel on it, a mini band on it, maybe a water on it, and it tells people, hey, we're gonna be working right here, right? And what you'll notice as you run classes, people show up a few minutes early, they'll start rolling, and this is the time to build community and culture. They'll be talking with their friends. If you can imagine that there's 4 people rolling here, hey, so, how'd your daughter do at her last tournament in soccer? Great. Somebody over here says they just got a new job. Another person, as we're switching around, is saying, oh yeah, my son went to, like my son just went to World Championships of Robotics. This is the time to share all those wins, support each other, build those friendships, build that culture, while doing something where all of us can kind of talk and get along. Finally, if you're a coach and you're foam rolling, making faces and suffering a little bit doesn't break anybody's heart. And they'll love it as well to see that, hey, you go through the same thing as they do, all right? So once again, I love all these aspects of the foam roller. I think they're fantastic. And I think it's a tool you should have in your clinic gym hybrid because it's so useful in the clinic, it's so useful in the gym, and whether it's running classes or individualized rehab, it just works. Hope that's useful.